Hey, no April Fools here. The Sixers show up and show out in the nation's capital, hanging a $153 on the Washington Wizards. Good to see you for Sixers Postgame Live, brought to you by Cure Auto Insurance. Danny Palmel's, the coach Jim Lynam, and Mark Jackson here. And guys, no third quarter woes for this team. We can breathe a bit easier here. They put up 47 in the third quarter, and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey really carried this one from start to finish. Looked a little trepidatious at halftime when they were only up 2 points and gave up 71 in the first half, but a win they needed to get against a team they should beat as the Wizards dropped 20 of 21.
You know, Coach, I don't know how you feel about it, but this is how it should win, right? You know, this game is a little too tight in the first half for our liking, but we're taking it for what it is. It's a win. A win, all you need is one. Right? They call you a winner. So we'll take that win, but I think it's very important, like you said, we get the wins against the teams that we're supposed to win.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what was impressive to me. Granted, it is a team they're supposed to beat, no question, Mark. But when you throw VJ Edgecombe in with the two guys, they had 90 points between them to go along with, how about 25 assists? You're going to have to look at a lot of box scores to find that kind of combination. So this is a team that shared the ball out. Yes, they scored 152, partly because of the way they passed the ball to one another. Yeah, they passed it well, shared the rock, and they put up a $153 without Joel Embiid, partly because Paul George was on his game. You heard him talking with Kate Nala afterward. And Paul George, the man of the hour, how about it? 39 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, stuff in the stat sheet, Mark. And continues to remain hot from the outside. He was feeling that jumper, too.
He really was. He got the business early and often, didn't he, man? He really knew, like, this was my night. He was feeling it. He was applying pressure. And the best thing about it, he did in all aspects. He was creating three-point shots as well as being physical around the paint. I love the game that Paul George gave us today.
Let's not talk about it. Let's see it. It's our Colonial Nissan game changer. And this is Paul George going to work. He brought his hard hat, lunch pail, and his work boots, Coach.
Yeah, he sure did, right from the top of the game, Danny. He talked about this with Kate Nala afterwards. You know, just driving to get to the spot. He put pressure on the defense going to the...
And it's so interesting seeing him go to work against this young Washington squad, Mark. So many of these young guys idolize him and his skill set and the way that he's been able to score. And, yeah, he turned back the clock here tonight with 39 points. Couldn't quite get the 40. But a very effective game all the same.
More minutes, he would have got more than 40, Danny. But I like the fact that he was effective at the time he was given it. And you mentioned, I forgot who was his interview, and they say he was one of their GOATs.
Right.
People remember the Paul George of Playoff P, the one that was that guy.
Yeah.
He still has remnants of that.
Yeah.
But now that he seems to be healthy, he's showing us right before our eyes.
Yeah, we don't see the bounce like we used to. He used to have those 360 dunks on the fast break and all that when he was with the Pacers. But like Kate talked about with Coach Lynam in the crossover, this is the version of Paul George Sixers fans were hoping to see because he's so versatile, because he takes that pressure, scoring pressure off of Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. And tonight the big three was Edgecombe, Maxey, and Paul George. But all the same, Joel Embiid would be good to have him back Friday against Minnesota. Let's hear from Coach Nick Nurse in Washington right now after this win.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he showed really good leadership by coming out and, being aggressive and getting us going at the start. And then I think, really the start of both halves, he was just really, really good. And great to see. I think variety too. Got some drives, got some transition threes, got some one-on-one plays, variety of different places on the floor. But it's great job by him to get us jump started in both halves.
And then just offensively as a whole, you guys shoot 62% from the floor. You knocked down a ton of threes, and just what allowed you guys to really find the offensive flow early?
I mean, I think one of the game plan things was to really attack the rim. And I think we did that, really consistently. And you've non-defense both ways tonight. But I thought he stood in there and made some great stops and steals and knocked the ball away quite a bit and all that stuff. So, he looks good out there, both sides of the ball.
Even with Joel and Tyrese out there, Paul has been really aggressive and, looking for and creating shots. That hasn't been always the case with him. He's deferred a lot over the course of the last 2 years. Why do you think that this changed a little bit with him?
Well, I think combination of a couple things. I think to Gina's point, I think he feels really good. Physically, I think he really believes in what he can do. physically, so that's probably helping him mentally as well. But I also believe those guys are they're getting him, Tyrese especially, is really getting him involved and finding him and calling plays for him, set plays, side out of bounds plays, all those kind of things. Yeah.
What do you feel like changed defensively from the second quarter to the start of the third quarter, and what do you feel like you need to see more consistently defensively from this group?
Yeah, very simple. I didn't think we were into the ball enough. We were just off 5 or 6 feet, and they were kind of getting a momentum start until we kept talking about we got to press up and we got to get more physical with them. And I thought we finally did that, and they weren't just going right where they wanted to go or picking out a spot and getting there so quickly. It started to break their rhythm a little bit.
Dom was a plus 34 in 22 minutes. It was probably the most Dom Barlow stat line ever. I guess it's what is it about him that continues to kind of makes him impactful.
Super impactful. I think that, again, just tremendous effort at all times. Just doesn't really make many mistakes. He made one early, and that's the first one I can remember he's made. We got back cut out of the corner about the first 3 minutes of the game, and then after that you just don't see him blowing too many switches. You don't see him missing blockouts. He's really reliable with the ball. He either gets it to the front of the rim, or if they collapsed on him, he kicked it out for a great 3 for VJ. Just hard play and high IQ.
And you just mentioned VJ. Strong night for him, and might get overshadowed by Paul and Tyrese. But just as you go through these last 5 or 6 games, are there any final, I don't know if checkpoints is the right word, or just any final things you want to see him get to before you guys get to the postseason after so many different roles and everything he's had to do already this year?
No, I just think, again, I think he had 5 shots at halftime and ended up with 15. Again, just staying aggressive. I think those buckets that he makes are going to be important. Offense gets a little grinded out, and you need guys that can just go get buckets. I think some of the ones Q makes where he goes in and vaults up and makes it, those are Kelly. Those are important buckets to kind of keep things moving, for sure. And I do think that the biggest thing for me, I think we talked about transition defense before the game, but how far can we stretch out our defense minutes wise? Because there's some times when we get locked in, we can be really, really good. We've got to start extending those minutes throughout the game. Yeah.
You mentioned Tyrese feeding Paul and just having a feel for the game. What sort of progress have you seen him make throughout this year in terms of being a floor general and kind of just having that feel for where the game's going and what the team needs in different situations?
Yeah, I think that I think we've got him to an aggressive state of mind, right? And I think he's kind of got that on where it needs to be. So to answer your question, I just see him, where he's tweaking plays a little bit that maybe we were calling for him, that he'd put somebody else in there, and again, just to get VJ going or get Kelly a bucket, or again, get Paul one. I think that's growth for him for sure.
Andre Drummond hit 2 corner threes tonight. He's hit more 3-pointers this season than he had his entire NBA career leading up to this point. What kind of work have you seen him put in to kind of add a little bit of that into his arsenal this year?
Yeah, he can shoot, right? And I think that we planned on him kind of being this guy last year, but just couldn't quite get there with it. It's not probably something he's been told to do much of his life, right, because of his size and position. But this year he got over that hump. You guys remember early in the year, every time he wound it up, the whole crowd would gasp. That's ended. At least he's put up enough, and he goes out in those corners. And when you got guys that can slither to the rim, they're going to have to decide sometimes to pull in and help. And a lot of times that kick out to him is an awfully good shot.
Yeah, an offensive outburst here by the 76ers, a $153 against this Wizards team, including 47 points in that third quarter. But really, it was the defense that told the story in that third quarter as they slowed Washington down from that 71 first half points. Nick Nurse talking about them pressing up, getting more physical, breaking their rhythm, Coach. You got to love the response the Sixers had and the adjustment they made there in the third quarter.
Yeah, there's no question. They got a lot more physical. And as he said, they were too passive, Danny, in the first half, meaning they just kind of let Washington run whatever they wanted, take first steps in whatever direction. But once they got up and got aggressive with their defense, got more physical, it turned the game around completely.
Hey, it was Paul George's night overall, but Tyrese Maxey also came calling against this Washington Wizards team. We'll discuss him and more of the Sixers victory coming up here after we take a quick timeout. But we want you to clap your hands and celebrate these 76ers. A big win for the squad as they get a victory as they head home on this 2-1 3-game road trip.
Here they come.